Hi guys, welcome to your Professional Diploma in Leadership and Management Module 1. I hope you're looking forward to getting started. But before we do, I just want to do a quick sound check to make sure everyone can hear me. So if you can hear me, please type yes into the comment box. And if you can't, hopefully you're reading the screen and you're typing no, so the wonderful support team can help you if you're having any issues. I will do this at the start of every lesson just to make sure we can clear out any issues before we get stuck into the content. Now, allow me to introduce myself. Welcome to Shaw Academy. We have rapidly grown to become the largest live educator on the planet, and this is something we are very proud of. My name is Jonathan Ledden, and I am the Head of Leadership and Management here at Shaw. I will be taking you on your educational journey over the next few weeks, where we will be looking at completely understanding the difference between leading a team and managing a team. I know that you're all here to develop your education and knowledge, and I'm very passionate about teaching you these practical skills that you can apply directly to your career development pretty much straight away. I do this by cramming my 20 years of experience into just 16 weeks of content. To tell you a little bit about myself, I've been an entrepreneur since a teenager. At 16, I recorded, produced, promoted, and released my band's first single, which got us a number of high-profile gigs around the country. I followed this up by spending 10 years working in the music industry as a freelance musician, sound engineer, and audiovisual technician. And then after years of an unhealthy lifestyle gigging, I decided to move into the fitness industry after falling in love with training and working out. And I've spent the past 8 years since as a personal trainer, a manager, a sales consultant, and online fitness entrepreneur. I started with Shaw in 2016, where I developed and built our fitness courses, which train over 7,000 students per month, and I've recently taken over the leadership and management department. I do have a little saying, and it's aimed to become 1% better every day and enjoy the process. I have that saying in life, in business, and in personal development. So hopefully, if you start living by that motto, you really will help to improve all areas of your life. Now, let's talk about why we're actually here. There's 4 main reasons why you're here. You either want to enter a management role for the first time and have never actually managed people. Maybe you want to grow your business, whether you've been working that on full-time or part-time. Maybe you want to gain a promotion within a company you already work for, or possibly you're just here for self-improvement and personal growth. Now, the great thing is, whatever reason you're here for, you already have the mindset of developing and improving, which is exactly what you need to become a successful leader and manager. To give you a rough idea of how the actual EQF level qualification works, you are all starting module 1 of a 4-module course. In this first module, we will cover the theory behind successful leadership and management techniques, along with developing the mindset to successfully lead a team. Then in module 2, 3, and 4, we will look at specifically working on the practical skills needed in companies and business today to truly nurture a culture of true growth and development amongst staff and management. And all of that will equal your level 5 professional diploma in leadership and management. If you are not familiar with the EQF level 5 professional diploma, it is an internationally recognized qualification which has the following global equivalencies. In the UK, it's QCF level 5. In the USA, it's an associate's degree. In South Africa, it's the equivalent to the NQF level 5. In Ireland, it's the equivalent to QQI level 6. In Canada, the OQF level 5. Saudi Arabia, the NCAA level 2, Australia, an AQF level 5 or 6 depending on the content, New Zealand, the NZQF level 5, 6, and in the UAE, it's the NQF level 5. Now, if you don't see your country's global equivalency, just contact the support team and we will be happy to find that out for you. Now, lastly, before we get stuck into the lesson content, I do want to explain how the live interaction works. On each lesson, you will have a chat box to interact and ask or answer questions. We have taken the answers to hundreds of thousands of previously asked questions from past students and programmed them into our very own artificial intelligence called ShawBot. ShawBot is the most intelligent AI on the planet and will help you through your educational journey. I do encourage you to rate all the responses from ShawBot to help us improve your educational journey and student experience. So give it a 5 if it's an absolutely excellent answer. Give it a 4 if it maybe was good but could have been improved on, 3 for an average answer, and 2 and 1 for a poor answer. You can also chat to other students with the chat with peers option. This allows you to discuss lesson content and connect with people all around the world that share your passion for business, leadership, and management. So let's take a look at your Module 1 agenda. The first lesson this evening will be looking at the difference between management and leadership. Then in Lesson 2, we're going to focus on the key management competencies, the skills, and the knowledge that we all must attain. Then in Week 2, we will look at what distinguishes leaders from managers, how leaders create vision, values, and purpose, and how they inspire others to follow them. Then in Week 3, we get into the big lessons. We will talk about coaching and training people for success and how leaders manage change in business. And then in our final week of Module 1, we'll look at how modern business is changing and placing an even higher premium on leaders because they are continuously looking to learn and develop not just themselves, but the people around them. Now, guys, by the end of Module 1, you will have a solid foundation around the theory of leadership and management and be ready to learn the practical skills we teach you in Modules 2 to 4. So I hope you're looking forward to it. Now, are you a manager or leader? That's what we will be looking at today. So in this lesson, you will develop an awareness for the basic differences between managers and leaders. You will then explore the growth mindset and characteristics that great leaders bring to their positions. Then we're going to cover the basics of management and some of the insights you will need to master, so you'll be able to use the characteristics of leadership to make you a better manager with the confidence of being able to face any challenge that you come across in your day-to-day work. Now guys, throughout Module 1, I'm going to share some quotes from leaders both past and present, which can teach you all valuable lessons with how differently leaders think to everyone else. And I'm going to start with the greatest mind in human history, Einstein. But funny enough, he didn't think his mind was that great. Every time someone asked him about his work or his genius, he would always respond with things like genius is 1% talent and 99% work, and you never fail until you stop trying. And if we can actually think about this link between failure and success, we can find a lot of very obvious examples. I mean, Einstein is one. He didn't speak until he was 4 years old, and his teachers said he wouldn't amount to much to himself and his parents, and of course he became the greatest thinker in human history. Michael Jordan, after being cut from his high school basketball team, locked himself in a room and cried for a couple of days. Steve Jobs at 30 was removed by the board from his own company. Oprah Winfrey was demoted from a news anchor position because her producers felt she wasn't fit for television. The Beatles were rejected by Decca Records because they didn't like their sound and thought they'd no future in music. And Bill Gates was a Harvard dropout and co-owned a business called Trafodata, which was a complete failure. Now, imagine if these famous leaders just quit after these first failures. They would have never reached the pinnacle of their respective fields, and the world would have never benefited from their incredible input. So as leaders, the first lesson we really need to learn is the link between failure and succeeding. And failure really is the key to success in the long run, because we're not going to win every single day. Okay? It's just not going to happen. So you need to start seeing failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. And if we do this, we're going to succeed in the long run. You see, the right mindset for leaders and for good managers is we either win or we learn, but we never actually lose. Just like Einstein says, you never fail until you actually give up. And this is what's known as the growth mindset. And if we can develop this mindset, and every time we come across a problem, we see it as an opportunity, well then we will truly be better off, not just in our business life, but also in our personal lives. So let's take a closer look at the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Because we commonly see the growth mindset in successful leaders and the fixed mindset in poor or unsuccessful managers. So if we look at the characteristics of the fixed mindset, people with a fixed mindset tend to avoid failure. They avoid failure because they have a strong fear of failure. The reason why they have a fear of failure is they desire to look smart. So they're afraid of looking incapable or challenged, even if it's going to benefit them, okay? They also avoid change. So they're unwilling to take risks because of fear of failure. This means they're unwilling to learn because they're unwilling to really improve their own work from taking better methods from others or the people around them. And then they're also unable to take feedback because they take all feedback and criticism in a negative or personal way. Now, there's two things you might see from looking at this slide. One, you might recognize it in an old manager that you didn't get on with, or maybe in a company that you left because you were unhappy, and you're looking at this going, oh wow, actually they're all the reasons why I left. Or maybe you're looking at this because you're actually recognizing that maybe you have some of this. And with a fixed mindset, we can never become a successful manager or a successful leader. What we actually need is a growth mindset. Okay? The reason we need this is because with the growth mindset, we have a desire to learn. We constantly want to learn and improve no matter how good we are getting. We also enjoy challenges in the growth mindset. So you regularly take on new challenges because really it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable and it kind of spurns your day to be a great day. You also embrace change. You'll embrace any positive change within your team, within your company that is going to improve either your service, your morale, or overall your productivity in the long run. You're not afraid to fail. And this is a big one. You can't be afraid to fail. You have to learn from your failures and be happy to take risks that will pay off in the long run. Otherwise, you are never going to develop and be a successful leader. And you have to be able to learn from feedback, not just from your peers and the people above you, but also from your subordinates. You have to use feedback and criticism as a learning tool to improve your methods and the way that you deal with people. Because again, if you don't, you're getting stuck into the fixed mindset, and the fixed mindset doesn't allow us to grow or develop ourselves or the people around us. What we need is the growth mindset, because that's going to give us the environment to learn, to embrace change, and to learn from feedback. So guys, can we become a leader and a manager at the same time, or are they mutually exclusive? I'll give you 5 or 10 seconds there to type in, especially if you're in the community group, to get a conversation going with you guys, because there's nothing better than you guys actually starting to have a conversation about this and turning the brain on. But essentially, leaders tend to be very organized and fair managers. So with that in mind, let's take a look at management and what exactly do managers do. Well, any business, corporation, or organization, either commercial or non-profit, needs to be properly and efficiently run. So in the sense of like running the day-to-day, making sure the staff are trained, making sure staff understand their job expectations. Obviously, we have targets around acquiring customers, retaining customers, and then ultimately growing through Q1, 2, 3, and 4 in any business. And then it comes down to also maintaining a corporate and social responsibility. So guys, for your day-to-day to run smoothly in any business, staff need to be productive. And this requires good management, planning, staff training, them knowing what is expected of them, and really for staff to be able to own their own priorities and work without being micromanaged. They must also feel that they have feedback within their own day-to-day. And if they are struggling with any issues personally or professionally, they can come to you as their direct line manager. Otherwise, we will end up eroding away their confidence in the company, their loyalty, and really their willingness to grow and develop within the organization. You see, we want to nurture people who want to grow and develop and believe in the company and the product. So let's look at some of the basic principles of management and really how to use them. Planning. So planning involves setting out objectives and determining a course of action for achieving those objectives, okay? And then if we go to organize, organizing requires managers to assign tasks to roles and obtain the resources needed for them to get a project or job done. Then when it comes to leading, you need to lead by example, but you also need to lead by delegating to your team and making sure that everyone understands the goal that's in front of them and who's responsible for what. And then lastly, it's just your job to monitor the progress, to make sure everyone is doing their job, everyone understands their role, and to make sure we're actually seeing it. So to give you an example, in January we launched a brand new webinar system where we had to train over 100 staff on our new student support and broadcast system for the webinars. So essentially with the planning phase of it, we looked back, and knowing that we were starting this in January, we had to look back in November and go, right, what we're going to do is we're going to plan to test this across every single course over the next 6 weeks for an entire week. Okay, so that will give us an opportunity to make sure that all educators, team leaders, and support staff can try out the system, understand how to set it up, and believe in the product working. Okay, that was the planning phase. The organizing phase was simply putting a schedule in place. So making sure the team leaders and educators knew what night they were actually going to test the system, make sure the day or two before that we're getting full training involved in their individual roles, and make sure everyone knew exactly what they had to do, not just that day, but the previous couple of days in their training. The leading really came to the educators and the team leaders to make sure everyone understood what we had to do that week on the new system. And then the monitoring, very much like leading, it was really just making sure that everyone understood what they were doing, keeping an eye on the progress, and stepping in where they needed to clarify any points. So using basic principles of management could really help us just take a new project and let it flow. So to understand how to actually start practically implementing these principles of management, let's look at each function step by step. So when it comes to planning, that involves setting objectives and determining a course of action for achieving that objective. Okay, so an organization's top management most often than not conduct strategic planning throughout the year, and the middle level managers often engage in the tactical planning of that strategic planning. Okay, so simple as that. Okay, when it comes to organizing requires managers to obtain the resources that's needed to actually complete the job, then assign the tasks to the right people on the team, and essentially to make sure that everyone understands their role in the entire process. Okay, when it comes to leading, directing, and coordinating, leading is really the action step. You know, you've planned and organized the work, but now you have to direct your team to get the work done. You have to motivate your team to get the work done. So you start by making sure the goal is clear to everyone on the team. Simple as that. Do they need anything else to complete their job? Do they understand the timeline? Do they think the timeline is realistic? Can you help out in any way? Okay. Personality research and studies of job attitudes tell us that to become effective at leading, managers must first understand their subordinates' personalities, values, attitudes, and emotions. So you have to be at least familiar with your staff and have them buy into your training and your planning and your managing before they're actually going to come through for you. And then lastly, the control part. You know, the work has begun. So now as managers, your only job is to really track progress and measure performance. And if you've done the first 3 steps properly, it should be pretty much an automatic machine. So you may have to step in to help someone in a timeline or a specific resource that they need. But if you've been effective in those first 3 parts, the control, the monitoring is really just the last step to make sure that everything goes according to plan. So guys, now that we've covered the main principles of management, why is good management matter so much? I'll give you a few seconds again. Type in why you think good management with staff, with projects, and just in general creating a good environment is so important in the workplace. So again, get chatting amongst yourselves, type in, get some answers going, and we'll get stuck into it. So there's a good quote from Tom Peters here actually, and he is a worldwide recognized management consultant. He says that management is about arranging and telling, and leadership is about nurturing and enhancing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to really look at the difference between managers and leaders. And as we noted earlier, to be a great leader, it really requires to be a great manager. And if we don't successfully and fairly manage people, it has a drastically negative effect in the workplace and frankly on your employees and productivity as a whole. So if we look at why management matters, let's delve into the big one. Why do employees leave their jobs? And why do some companies tend to lose their brightest and best people over and over again without fixing the problem? Well, frankly, it comes down to whether your employees feel valued or undervalued. And here's the 5 most common reasons why people tend to leave their jobs. Okay, number 1, they feel overworked, overloaded, and their managers can't see the impact this is having on either their productivity, their morale, or in general, their work-life balance. Number two, the employer's effort or contribution is just taken for granted and never really recognized or rewarded. And one thing I hate to see, and I've seen it in a couple of companies, is this assumption that you should be working 12, 13-hour days to get ahead. Now, most employees are getting paid 8, 9-hour days. They shouldn't be expected to work 12, 13-hour days every single day with no reward whatsoever. I know some of the managers are going to be attacking me for a second now, saying, look, if we don't expect a bit extra from everyone, then we're going to get nothing done. But you can't expect it on a daily basis. Fair enough, if there's an important project the whole team is working on and we have a deadline which we're behind on, yes, we're going to have to put a few extra hours in. But if you're managing your team properly and managing your projects properly, you shouldn't have to have people working 11, 12, 13-hour days when they are being rostered on for 9-hour days and getting paid for 9-hour days. This is a big one, and you're going to lose a hell of a lot of people if this happens. Okay? Number three, managers are just not in touch with how some of their hires or promotions are driving their best people to complete frustration. And this can be an absolute morale killer. If you are a senior manager and you just hire someone into a position because you like them better, people will see straight away that the only way to get ahead is to kiss ass, okay? And that is the last thing people want. People should be rewarded on their merit, their work ethic, their dedication, and their suitability for the role, okay? Number four, if people see no personal or professional growth in a role or in a company, they'll leave. So again, if we're a smaller company and we don't have as many promotional opportunities, maybe we can help people personally or professionally grow. And you know what? If they end up moving on, at least we might hold them for a little longer, and then they might send us on some good staff in the future. Okay? And then number five, guys, managers just don't have or take the time to clarify big decisions to middle management or on staff level. And communication is key from the top down. If you just change what everyone is doing, not explain it, and then expect everyone to take it on board, no problem whatsoever, you are asking just to shoot morale in the face. Okay? You can't do that. You have to communicate properly to your managers and staff so they buy into the idea. Even if this was a decision made from 6 months of strategic planning, you still have to sell the idea to all your staff. And you have to get them to buy into it so they'll actually put the effort in to convert that project. So again, guys, communication is key. People have to feel valued. People have to feel like they have a voice. And if they're just being asked to do something and shut up, it just never works. There must be transparency, especially these days in the corporate world. And speaking of transparency, why is transparency so important? And why is good management so important? The reason being is because the effect a bad manager has on employees. Okay? So number one, employees who do not feel valued or respected in the workplace by their managers will just simply leave. Okay? Disrespect is probably one of the most common reasons why people will start looking for new jobs. Their productivity will plummet to 60% of what they could do on a daily basis, and you will lose them somewhere between 1 and 3 months, if not on the day. I've seen some companies so bad that people literally quit and leave on the day because morale can be affected so bad by senior management. Okay? It's a complete deal breaker when a boss doesn't trust or empower employees or teams, or takes away trust that was already there in the first place. All right? Also, management may be causing more problems than they're solving if they're not making the right decisions or not involving the staff and the middle management in those decisions. So no matter what you're doing with the business, you have to think about people on the ground level or managers that are very much involved with the customers. Are we making the right decision if we're changing a product or changing a service or changing a price point? And are we actually asking the staff that directly talk to our customers, what do they think of that? Now, we may still end up making the same decision, but if you involve them in the decision process, it's much better for the long term in a company than if all you're doing is telling them what to do. There's nothing worse than the ground troops on floor level just not trusting a clueless manager, because if your staff think they have a better idea than the manager in charge of the team, you're going to lose that whole team. And then lastly, guys, it goes back to hiring your buddies into promotions. If the wrong people start getting promoted and the wrong people are starting to get fired, then you're going to lose all your best people. So make sure you're promoting based on merit, make sure you're promoting based on work ethic, on dedication, and make sure there's no favoritism just because you like someone better, because that is the quickest way to kill morale and just end up with a load of kiss-ass yes men. All right, guys? So guys, let's say we've just been promoted to, say, middle management, or we come into a company we're not familiar with and we're seeing some of these problems and we're losing our best people. What do we do about it? I think the first thing we need to do is look back at all the exit interviews and see why people are leaving. And here's the 3 biggest reasons you're going to be given on employee exit interviews on why people are leaving their job. Number 1, work-life balance. Okay, what drives people to resign generally is rigid timekeeping rules which don't allow flexibility to handle family responsibilities or social stuff people have on. Okay, a good company culture makes people want to stay at the workplace when they're needed, but doesn't expect employees to work during their time off. We must provide a flexible environment where possible. Okay, like I used to run a very successful sales team in a very high-end gym, and I had 2 simple rules. Okay, if you were hitting your target, you could take a couple hours a day to do your workouts, do your personal development, and to essentially spend a little time on developing yourself. And if you weren't hitting your targets, you were putting the work in to hit your targets. Simple as that, okay? It gave them the motivation to work hard, to hit their targets, and they were able to take that extra time out throughout the day to work on themselves a little bit. Number 2, guys, is money. Okay, now money does matter, but only to a point, and that's usually when it's impacting a person's well-being. Okay, a 10% increase in salary is associated with a 1.5 chance of them actually staying, especially if they're not being treated respectfully. Okay, so compensation and pay is always second to respectful treatment. And number 3, guys, many employees leave their jobs when there's simply no upward movement whatsoever. So no matter how hard they work or how well they succeed, there's no opportunities for advancement into higher paying roles or more demanding positions. And alternatively to that, if a less qualified or capable team member gets a promotion, so you hiring your buddy even though it's not on merit, the high performing employees will start looking elsewhere because the former teammate who wasn't as good as them is now their manager. So how do we solve these issues? Well, there's 3 ways we can fix this. And there's actually 3 critical factors that contribute more to the employee experience than pay. 1 is regular, real-time feedback. Okay, so high-performing organizations have consistently revamped one major area within their culture, and that's how they go about collecting and delivering feedback. So frequent and timely feedback, stuff that's offered on a weekly basis or every day or even every few hours depending on the task, is much more effective than waiting for once-a-year opportunities to let employees know how they're doing. Because real-time feedback allows companies to be more agile and responsive to better meet employee needs. So also getting feedback in this way on a consistent basis keeps employees invested in what they're doing. So the big takeaway for managers and companies in this section is that feedback is a major driver to influencing an employee's experience and their likelihood to buy into the company as a whole and want to continue to contribute and do well within that company. Okay, guys? So real-time feedback, very, very important. Number 2, development and growth opportunities. Okay, one of the most important parts of an employee's entire experience is having talent processes that support their long-term growth. Okay, research shows that one of the strongest predictors of employee satisfaction and that shows their intent to stay is the perception of career opportunities within their company. So employees who are able to see a clear path for how they can advance in the company are much more likely to be invested in their work and much more likely to work a lot better. And guys, while formal training and learning programs are often found within high-performing organizations, peer coaching is also one of the most effective ways to offer development opportunities to employees today. So an employee that's been there a very long time, that's very good at their job in a certain position, and they're given the opportunity to actually take someone on in a similar position and coach them through maybe getting to the same level as them, is hugely rewarding for both employees because they're learning from a peer, and then that peer that's been there a long time is taking on some more responsibility. So you're getting satisfaction on both ends of it. Okay, so the big takeaway here on development and growth is that employers and management need to focus on providing ample opportunities for employees to develop, including setting out a clear path to progression in their careers. And guys, lastly, real investment in positively impacting the workplace and the culture. When it comes to attracting talent, especially young talent, pay and benefits is a big one. However, especially with your higher earning segment of employees, pay won't keep your talent. What does keep talent around? A positive workplace culture. So these are things like the culture and values of a company, senior leadership and how they deal with the middle management, career opportunities, a positive business outlook, and real work-life balance. The ability to take time back that you've put into the company when you can. And in fact, all of those factors rank higher than pay in terms of what matters most to employees. So the 4 big questions you should be getting feedback from your employees to validate that you're doing a good job is: number 1, do your employees feel equipped to do their work to their best ability on a daily basis when it comes to resources and training? Number 2, do employees feel recognized and valued for their work and contributions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Number 3, do your employees feel a sense of purpose in their work, and are they truly invested in the belief and the product of the company? And number 4, do your employees feel they have had recent opportunities to learn and grow? Because if they're saying no to all of them, you're losing everyone. And really, if you want true productivity, true growth in your team or in your company, you're going to need to be hitting all those points. And the big takeaway for that last one is the positive workplace culture completely outweighs pay and benefits in the eyes of most employees. So guys, with those 3 areas in mind, we have to be asking ourselves when we're dealing with people and leading people, can we treat them with more respect? Can we give them more responsibility? Can they own their own priorities? And can we motivate them to do the work because they want to and not because they're just being told to do so? Okay, so Gary Vee, who's probably one of the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners over the past 15 years, he says 2 things. Well, he says a number of things, but these are 2 of his best. 1, fear kills growth. And that's a good example of how bad managers will kill productivity, because we can't have our subordinates afraid to do something. If they think there's a better process, if they think there's a better way of doing it, we need the culture where they can actually say it and suggest it to improve the process. So another one from Shaw is, we say everything gets better every time. So if anyone has a suggestion in how to improve student support or the student experience or the student feedback, whatever it may be, from no matter what level it's at, whether someone's been in the company for a month or someone's been here 10 years, if it's a good idea, we'll take it on board and try it out. Okay, and that gets rid of the fear of killing growth, because there is then a culture of growth, of getting better every time. Okay, and the other thing is, obviously, if we want to win, we have to work hard. There's not a single winner on earth that took it easy. And again, if we create that culture where people want to grow and want to really suggest how to improve the company and the team or whatever it may be, we're going to get that. Okay, so if we look at a few of the leadership myths and traits, some of the big ones are things like, we hear them all the time: leaders are born, not made. Leaders have all the answers. Leaders are always in the spotlight. Like, what do you think, guys? Do you think these are, get a conversation going again amongst yourselves, do we think these are accurate statements? Do we think leaders are born and not made? No, of course not. So like, even the US military believes that leaders are made, not born. The complete opposite of that statement we hear all the time. It's through hard work, it's through repetitive efforts of trying to get better every single time that we eventually achieve goals, any goal. Like, you're not going to be perfect the first time out. And we talked about this with the growth mindset. Leaders have this growth mindset. Okay, so leaders don't have all the answers, but they will ask the right questions, and they're not afraid to ask questions, and they're not afraid to try and answer those questions a number of different ways until they do it properly. And leaders, sometimes we see them as the spotlight all the time, but sometimes they're not. Like, I know there's a number of places I've worked over the years, and one of the best managers and leaders I worked for, he was kind of under the radar in the company. Like, he would essentially just improve the processes in the background, and the right people noticed, but everyone else didn't realize where those improvements were coming from. So, if you're a good manager, a good leader, you're not necessarily going to be in the spotlight all the time, but you will be nurturing maybe a very good team, or maybe a certain department in your company that seems to be massively improving not just their area, but also the entire company as a whole. And the people that will notice that are the people up the top. So everyone else will just think it's maybe the team, but the CEO or the CFO, whoever it may be, is going to notice that whoever's leading that team is doing a great job. So we have to realize that, we can become better as leaders every single day if we develop that growth mindset. If we accept that we don't have all the answers and we just like to actually learn and grow every single day, then we're going to improve the processes. And we can't be afraid of failing. That is the biggest mistake you can make, being afraid of failure. I think leaders have no problem failing whatsoever. Goes back to the start of the lesson. Leaders know that failure is the key to success. I think poor managers and people that get stuck in the one position for their whole life tend to think failure is a bad thing. All right? So that's one of the major ones for me. So guys, if we think back on some of the great managers we've worked for, great leaders that we work for, we'll realize that they have a number of characteristics, okay? And here's a few of them, okay? Integrity. Great leaders do the right thing regardless of circumstances, situation, or any other influencing factors, okay? They don't try and take credit where they haven't done the work. They don't try and berate you for no reason. And you always see them as fair and that they have a certain amount of integrity. Number two, inspirational. And this is a big one for me. Great leaders inspire trust and admiration through their actions and not their words. When I entered the fitness industry for the first time 8 years ago, I had a huge amount of experience in the music industry and working for myself, but I'd never really entered any of the business side of fitness. So I went and worked for one of the leading sales departments in the country when it comes to gym memberships. And the manager there at the time, from day one, treated me like one of his peers. He would never put me down for not hitting a target because he saw the work I was putting in. And again, I think I didn't realize or know what the growth mindset was at the time, but he was developing that in me. And he truly developed the mindset in me to just continually get better. Like, try and use the system that we have in place, make it more of my own to fit my personality, and really believe in the process. And over a 6 or 7 month period, I became the top performing salesperson in that department. He built so much trust between the two of us that I would always go above and beyond for him. And we were the top performing sales team for like 3 or 4 years running. So if you actually inspire people and have them admire what you do and how you do it, they will do the work without you having to tell them. Okay? A visionary. Great leaders possess the ability to create vision and also to be decisive. Okay? So we can have all the ideas in the world, but if we can't execute them and we can't decide in what actual direction we're going, then we're never going to get anything done. So great leaders are able to take the great ideas from everyone else and put them in a direction and execute them over a timeline. Okay? Team focused. Great leaders create great teams. That manager I was talking about, it wasn't just me that he developed that mindset in, it was also the entire team. And there was 7 guys in that office that was outperforming every gym in Europe for 3.5 years because he was team focused. And he developed a great team with a great mindset and trust amongst everyone that we never slacked off. Okay? Administrative competency, look, great leaders are very organized, simple as that. They wake up in the morning, they go do a workout, they plan their day, and they execute their day to the letter. And if you can do that, and you can create that culture amongst your staff and your subordinates, you're already 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Okay. Empathy and diplomacy. Guys, you have to remember, people are people. They're not robots. Your staff cannot run 100% every single day, day upon day, without a rest, or without a pat on the back, or without a thank you, or without some time off. So have some empathy and diplomacy, and know how to deal with people. And lastly, guys, great leaders, great managers, they're modest and they're humble. Okay? They put their ego aside, they know how to deal with people, they know how to listen to others, and they know how to give credit where credit is due. And I think if you can do 60-70% of these most of the time, there's only one direction you can go, and that's up in every single company you work for. So guys, leading on from that, Fred Fielder in his book, The Theory of Leadership Effectiveness, shows that leaders are motivated by either people, projects, or power. So this model divides leaders into three categories. From these, we see the emergence of two key leadership models: task-based model and a relationship-based model. So task-oriented leaders often thrive in middle management, where teams are focused on completing specific targets or assignments. So because their responsibilities are often project-based, they have quick turnaround times that require deadline-driven management. Whereas relationship-focused managers tend to be more prevalent at the executive level than task-driven types. So for example, relationship-oriented leaders works best on teams that require creative thinking and problem solving. So things like computer programming, product design, digital marketing, where we have to be very much with the time and to be ahead of everyone else, really see where the market is going, then that's where the relationship-focused leaders do best. So guys, traditional leaders believed that power came from their position of authority, and they maintained a lot of ownership on the information or the solution to the problem. Whereas we're seeing now a growing body of evidence that shows that organizations with flatter structures outperform those more traditional hierarchies in most situations these days. And Gary Vee is a great example of this because he runs VaynerMedia. Now VaynerMedia employs 650 staff, is a $1 billion company. They deal with pretty much all your Fortune 500 companies when it comes to marketing and digital marketing and dealing with social influencers. And yet he talks to his doorman, his postman, his executive, his floor staff, all the exact same way. And anyone with a good idea can bring that good idea to him to improve their company. So we're seeing those flatter structures, and those relationship-focused leaders do a lot better than the old traditional model. All right, so let's look at that a little closer. When it comes to the task-oriented leaderships, as I said, especially works best in environments where really responsibilities are easily defined. So sales departments or project management departments where, you know, we essentially have to get a job done in a specific time. But the drawbacks of that is, you know, excessive task management and orientation creates a culture of low morale, because employees that are self-motivated usually find highly task-oriented leaders or managers to be condescending and non-trusting. Like they can't do it their way, has to be done this way, and it feels a little like micromanagement. Whereas relationship-oriented leaders inspire employees to meet the organization's goals by helping them feel better about their work and the way they're doing their work. So they feel like they can put a certain amount of feedback into the project and are given enough breathing room to still complete it but make it their own. Now the main advantage of this relationship-oriented leadership is that it brings leaders and subordinates closer together, okay? So in turn we get a better team environment, we have people working there longer, we have people who are more willing to give feedback, therefore we perform as a whole a lot better. Now, the primary disadvantages is that relationship building is time consuming, and it's not always appropriate if we have a task-oriented environment in a certain time frame or situation. So we have to be kind of good at switching back and forth when needs be. And if we teach the team that, and they understand it, and there's enough trust in it, I think we can do a bit of both. And guys, if we manage to do a bit of a mix, we are truly becoming leaders and not just managers. You see, leaders can be both strategic and tactical. So they're able to anticipate and lead change, manage risk, see other opportunities. They can interpret any of their visions to their staff and also to their customer service or product. And they're very much about aligning the business model to current market conditions. Whereas if you're tactical, you can also hold people to account, be very customer centric, are able to execute any new strategies, and where you need to be can be innovative. So I think if we're managers, we end up being stuck in certain pigeonholes, whereas if we have that growth mindset and we have that really hunger to learn every area of the business and see where we can make those improvements, then I think we can truly become leaders and not just managers. And guys, remember, a great leader actually is a great manager. You know, you can be a good manager in one area, but to be a leader, you need to be a great manager in all areas. So guys, I'm going to wrap up the lesson there, but congratulations on completing lesson 1. And hopefully now you will see your leadership skills improve on every lesson that we do on the Professional Diploma in Leadership and Management. So if I have a look at what we covered on that lesson, we already had an introduction to what leadership and management is, why management really matters, and really the reason why it matters is we need someone to lead. We need someone to be able to take a group of people and guide them in the right direction to complete projects, whether we in any area of business we're in. And then the characteristics of leadership, of course, are very important when it comes to knowing how to apply them ourselves in a situation where we are responsible for a large group of people or even a small team with a large task. So guys, I am here to help throughout your journey on the course. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, jonathan.ledden@shawacademy.com. If you want to know more, we have some interesting blogs on shawacademy.com/blog. And if we have a look at what we're going to cover in the next lesson, leading on from lesson 1, hopefully you're looking forward to it. We're going to really delve deep into a little more about management and leadership competencies. So what skills do we need to effectively manage and lead any team? We're also going to look at the application of these competencies and really how to apply these skills to effectively get your team to complete whatever you need them to complete, and not only that, for them to actually enjoy the process and to really feel like they were part of completing that task. And then we're going to look at some contrasting styles of leadership, like looking at the old dictatorship style of leadership where we tell everyone what to do, as opposed to the more open, I suppose, democratic leader that we see a lot more these days. And guys, if you do happen to miss any of your lessons, please don't panic. You can catch up on all recordings in your members area. Simply go into your course dashboard, click on your leadership and management course, and you will see all of your recordings here on the left. Lessons, and you'll see all of your available lessons that you may have missed. We'll have weekly assignments, quizzes are pretty much the same thing. These are for revision purposes. Then you have your toolkit of all your notes, bonus material, and of course your bonus content. So make sure to log into shawacademy.com, into your dashboard, into your courses, and you can catch up there. Now guys, if you do want to start getting ahead straight away, here's what I like to say to anyone in any type of management position or in any supervisory position where you're responsible for a team and for that team to complete their projects. The first thing you should be doing is you should start looking at your communication style and whether you're defensive or open to suggestions with your team. Because one of the biggest mistakes to be is be overly defensive. We want to be open to suggestions all of the time. We don't have to take those suggestions, but we want to make sure we create an environment where your team can speak to you when they want to. Okay? And we also want to start asking ourselves questions like, do we have a good relationship with your team? Do you all have mutual respect? Are you honest with your team? And if the answer to any of them is no, then we really need to start to look at how to apply our competencies and our skills with our management style to open these up within what we do with our team. So guys, that's it. I will see you back for your lesson 2 at the same time, either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on whether you're Europe, Africa, USA, India, or Australia. What I will say is check your reminder emails if you're not 100%, and you will have a direct link to your webinars. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. I will leave with the same phrase I leave every single lesson I teach, whether it be leadership, whether it be trading, whether it be cryptocurrency, and that is, remember, aim to get 1% better every day and enjoy the process. See you in the next lesson, guys.